Well, can't believe we're here finally, but happy birthday, Cars 1! Wow, just wow. After all these years of fun, merchandise, and just loving this movie, loving my hobby of collecting cars, loving the merchandise, loving the community. Wow, happy birthday, Cars 1. I was born in 2004, and this movie came out in 2006. I wasn't even 2 when it came out. And I honestly can't remember the first time I saw Cars 1. It's something I think about from time to time, but nowadays when I think about like my first viewing of Cars, I immediately think of sitting at Aunt Teresa's house in California, you know who I'm talking about, and watching it on our big TV. I don't know why, and I'm pretty sure that's not the case, but that's something I think of at first. But I have so many memories of this incredible movie. And if you adore this movie, do not be ashamed of that. I know of so many people who are outing themselves as people who love it as well, and I'm so glad about that. I'm so glad that people are starting to move out of the age where we were just ragging on cars on the internet for God's sakes. And people like the asshole critic are responsible for this. God forsake you, sir. God forbid you and go burn in hell. Sorry. But that's a story for another time, aka previous rants about that guy. Now it's all about positivity. Wow. What can I even begin to say about this? This DVD that you see here, it's not Blu-ray, it's not like with one of those terrible covers with just a character in the bland background. No, this is an official old one that I've had ever since the beginning of my days. From the Mater and the Ghostlight short to the trailers that I can quote word for word. Let's put a little bit of light on this subject. Next spring, two of the world's greatest minds. You know what I'm talking about if you know it. If you guys know what I mean, of course. This is still even on here and everything. And I've collected so many different characters and versions of McQueen over the years from Cars 1. And as a kid, I've always wanted to get every single character. And I have so many good memories with this film. And I just love it so unbelievably much. So much. I'm so nostalgic for it. But of course, nostalgia isn't the only reason why you can enjoy something. If it's still even just slightly good or whatever, then I'm gonna still consider it a movie that I can enjoy and love. But no, this movie flipping slaps. The emotional moments still hit. The animation is absolutely dazzling to watch, even if though it's from 2006. The characters are unforgettable. The humor still works. The music and everything is awesome. I love the world building, despite so many people getting confused by it. I was never confused by stuff as a kid, really. And I have so many various memories and thoughts and misconceptions that I had as a kid, not understanding certain things. And when a lot of people say stuff you don't get as a kid, they immediately think about stuff like, oh, innuendo jokes you don't get or whatever. No, I mean like me not understanding how certain things work or misinterpreting what a character means by something or just not getting anything. Or really not understanding how a story works, really. But yeah, I have so many pieces of merchandise like this oil pan here, which a lot of the parts and stuff like that I would take apart and everything. I would use them to recreate scenes from Wally with them being like the rogue robots and stuff like that. That's a story for another time. I remember the days when I only had a few racers, like our main characters and stuff like that, and the main squad of 3 plus Chuck Armstrong, who my dad would often put away because I would remove a lot of the rubber tires from him. So yeah, that's funny and fun. And I always remember having my parents lock up a ton of like extras and even characters that I don't have that are somewhat valuable and stuff like that in the packaging still and put them in a bin downstairs. Later on, I would open up most of them. And sadly, I did not keep a lot of the packaging for some of them, but I still have a ton of them that are still unopened or still in the packaging. And man, a lot of the memories I have with them are so valuable. This I obviously got earlier last year, of course, as you guys know, but from like this Chase King with the piston cup, which I took out, it's up on my shelf, or this right here as well, still with the Walmart thing on it back in the day. This Daryl Car Trip and this purple Ramon from the Supercharged era and the Radiator Springs packaging era. Yes, my items still go all the way back to this day, and you have the merchandise things that you put up on your wall. I have this here as well. This height chart that my mother still uses with all these car stickers on it. And this right here. And this gigantic Wyatt thing with Cars characters of different scaling, and a squashed Mater, and that as well. You've got tons of decals as well on the wall and stuff like that. This Mater that's falling off, and you've got this as well, and I attached some stickers to that. There's a Mater and a Ramon that are being covered up by all that stuff as well. And you've got all these decals that are here as well, and you have that up there. That's a display thing that all my mom set up years ago as well. And a lot of the cars have fallen off of the Velcro, and those are still in good condition. You have a cardboard cutout thing that's next to a flag there up on the wall for some reason, with a bunch of character cards and stuff like that, stickers, whatever you want to call them, on that. You have tons of the city buildings and stuff like that as well up that you see on Main Street of Radiator Springs. So yeah, those are up in there, and you got Radiator Springs and tires and stuff like that. Cool stuff. I'm kind of almost rambling when I'm talking about this because it's such a broad subject that I never really go over very much. As I had previously mentioned, there were a ton of things in Cars 1 that were just kind of misconceptions to me and stuff like that, like not really understanding things or just taking things the wrong way, or just finding certain things funny and thinking of them in an interesting way. For example, the scene where McQueen is dragging this is my Cars 1 McQueen that I use currently for stuff, when he's dragging Stanley down Main Street and all, and he's and drags him away. The sound that he makes as a kid, it always sounded funny. It sounds nowadays to me like China, but then it kind of sounded like Terry. I always liked that, and I always found it funny and a little spooky too. These right here, with the exception of the Patty and stuff, obviously, there's plenty more that, like a Sheriff and a Sally and a few others that I can't get to because stuff is in the way. They're in my bedroom right now. These are like a lot of the OG diecasts that I have. I have a lot of Cars 1 McQueens and stuff, and Maters and stuff, but yeah, my Guido had its forklift parts torn off, and my snot rod is missing this, and my King's spoiler is bent, and my god. At one point, I even took a bite out of my Wingo and all, not because I was being too reckless and all, but because I was just curious and seeing how strong it was, and it's strong. It's kind of cool at the same time and all, but it just shows how much I just love Cars back then, and how much I still love it to this day. Does this pop off? I remember it did, so maybe it doesn't now. Who knows? So yeah, even though it's I keep in good condition, I have a track underneath there as well. It's kind of hard to see. There's a diecast of Frank underneath there as well, but there's also that whole like track set, which comes with this original plastic Frank and this McQueen with the expression. I have this way too overly large Barney Stormin, which, yeah, makes sound. Sorry if this keeps making sound for a while. Okay, good, it doesn't. But yeah, a lot of good memories with this guy as well. Lots of fun. I enjoy this a lot too. I just wish there was good diecasts that were properly to scale and stuff like that. Mattel, please, there's some ideas for you instead of making overly tiny helicopters. You've got these two McQueens here that I'm pretty certain came with a birthday cake on mine that I got years ago, which I don't really recall. Maybe there's some pictures that we have somewhere. But yeah, I have plenty of pictures of classic birthday cakes I've had over the years. Some of which may be in danger, possibly, because of a photos thing that's going on. But don't worry, it's perfectly fine. My parents can pay the upcoming fee and everything for photos. And a lot of others are on my mom's old sparkly phone, or they're printed out in other safe ways, so don't worry about that. I was getting concerned about that whole thing, because my mom saw a thing on the news about photos soon paying a fee, and I was annoyed about that, because I've always thought, all these pictures that are being safe in photos and all, imagine if something were to happen to it. Imagine all this stuff would be lost. And now, when I heard fee and all, I immediately started to get scared. But my parents can pay, it's just they're worried because what if we forget to pay it one time and all? What's going to happen? We need to learn more information about this. But there's so few videos about it, though, and there's, like, no comments on most of these videos, too. It's annoying. If you guys have any thoughts on this or anything like that, info about that, please tell me. I'd be happy to know. This is a little baggy thing and all that has a bunch of games and stuff like that, like dominoes and A lot of these stuff I never really got to play with before because my parents were always busy or be doing stuff with the actual die casts. I always remember wanting to have my parents play board games with me and all that good stuff, but they very rarely ever would. Sometimes they would, but it was mostly just my mom. I also have a good memory that I only now mentioned. On the way back from my godfather Jeff's house when we were driving down the freeway over the bridge that has that tall factory looking place, the Detroit incinerator, there's a little area that has a parking garage, and it was late at night, so the parking garage is all lit up right next to the freeway, and we're in my dad's old black work truck, which is like elevated, so I always remember walking on a step and then getting up into the thing. I was watching Cars on a DVD player in the back seat in the very middle with headphones on, which was like cool to me. It's like, whoa, what are these? Wow. 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 And I specifically remember the scene where the king is talking to McQueen at the beginning of the film. If you guys recall that, of course. Simpler times. And also here's a fun little Pez thing as well that my dad found or so, something like that years ago. This giant screaming banshee toy, which was, at the beginning I remember being in the packaging and I so badly wanted to take it out. And it's kind of to scale with this stuff, it seems, which is good to know. And it's plastic, for crying out loud, not even die cast. It's also so funny seeing the classic Screaming Banshee next to cars like Noah Gochek and stuff like that. It's so surreal. Seeing the old past with the new current. So interesting. And I have so many nostalgic cars, from Patty to the Superfan Luigi and Guido to the Dynaco Showgirls that I got in a pack with Determined Lightning McQueen, which I didn't even recall getting that as a kid. Also, there were plenty of cars that I saw in person but didn't end up getting. For example, like Race Tow Truck Tom, which I saw at Target and I was holding in my hands, but my mom didn't buy it for me. I don't know why. I remember sitting in the little red things with a few seats on the floor. They weren't the typical things where they're in these seats right next to the person pushing the cart forward and they're pointed in the forward direction. No. There were these little things that were like kind of like on the very bottom of the cart, just barely elevated above the ground. And these little seats that were looking towards one another in a little box area. They were cool. If you guys know what I mean, please tell me. Classic days. And I have plenty of these books like this Mirror and the Ghostlight book, which has a few creepy images in it, to be honest. It kind of freaked me out as a kid. Even that didn't scare me or whatever, but I always found kind of creepy or weird or whatever. Like pictures like this, the art style also doesn't help. That's pretty creepy. That's horrifying. It's a monster. Oh. Old days. Such simple times. Wow. I take good care of these. And this book, and you got this book as well. I have a few other Cars books as well, but yeah, funny drawings in them. Because of a certain scene in the community service deleted scene, I would like to put my cars and see if they can fit through certain compartments. And this little thing on this little Hot Wheels set building thing that I own, I'd often put like Sheriff through here and stuff like that. So that's fun, and put them on little garage stuff. I should show this to you guys sometime. I have also this Luigi with a speaker inside that doesn't work currently because it's that old. Maybe it can get batteries put into it, but I guess it would have to be sewed into. A lot of my toys that have like speakers in them need to have batteries replaced, but I don't know how that works. And I can brag about having the OG Wally hauler and this huge Harv, or right? No, Trev, whatever his name is. And somewhere in here, my original Sarge was like a little mini Sarge and stuff like that. I didn't actually have the normal diecast at the time until like my 2013 or 12 or whatever birthday, or Christmas actually, where I got the Cars 2 Sarge. Good memories. And how can I forget to mention the Life is a Highway sequence, which I absolutely love, and it's a huge inspiration for why I love driving late at night through Detroit, and I absolutely love this set so much. It's so detailed, and I love all the little things about it, and yeah, I'm missing a piece here, unfortunately. Rest in peace. And yes, these are water faucets. Okay, Piston Cup Productions, keep that in mind. Also, are his comments being left on? I hope so. I loved this as a kid, and I just loved everything about this. Had no idea that this was like a weight machine kind of thing. I thought this was like a size height chart. No idea that these were like trophies either. Thought they were like levers and stuff. And there's the dial for Harv, which I was, when he was talking to Harv, I always imagined Harv living in a house similar to my godfather Jeff's. I don't know why, but that always came to my mind. But yeah, this also kind of looks like a seat even though it's a toolbox. But yeah, this thing, it's awesome. I love it. The detailing and the size accuracy and the door and everything about it, it's just incredible. And it's such a shame that Mattel doesn't bother to make toys like this and we get them the haulers that we get nowadays, which are either just reskins that open from the side, facepalm, or they're just bland things with barely any coloration or detail. Now everything about this is perfect and all. Not all the trophies are not painted gray, but still there's so much detail and love and passion put into it and creativity, but the modern stuff doesn't have that, of course, because we all know Mattel with them cutting corners and being as lazy and half-assing stuff as possible, with rare exceptions like the NASCAR series, which even then I have problems with. Not the diecast thing, but just other stuff, but let's not be negative. There's tons of other things I want to talk about. And it's so cool seeing how we've gone from modern day all the way, how we've gone from way back then and evolved all the way to nowadays and stuff. It's just incredible over the years. And as a kid, I would also have a problem of pausing a movie. I just wouldn't let it play all the way through, and I would keep pausing here and there in order to absorb every single thing about Cars 1. So that was a bit of a problem as a kid, so that's how I know everything about it almost. And I remember as a kid, my parents' friends, the Sterlings, would go out and buy me a ton of cars over in Wisconsin, so that's fun. My mom also loved the Life is a Dream sequence and just various lines like, "Don't take me out, coach, I can still race," and all those sleeping trucks. What? A minivan? He knows my name! So many classic lines from this film are just so ingrained into my memory. Also, a fun misconception. I always thought as a kid, because of the way how it's shot, Brian and Artie Feeclamp, whatever their names are, I thought that they were inside of the plane and the plane wasn't alive because you can't really see the mouths and the eyes are shielded and stuff by the black sunglasses or whatever. Just some more fun memories for you guys. As well as that, I also didn't really notice as a kid that McQueen was such a jerk. I just kind of found him as the main character that we should be rooting for, not knowing that he was a selfish prick who evolves later on. Just like Thomas the Tank Engine and stuff. See guys, character development, don't you love it? Something that clearly Nia and Rebecca suffer from. I also, as a kid, didn't really think about the fact that cars could die, so in Cars 2, when we actually do see cars getting shot and blown up and sunken and everything, it blew my mind, and I was kind of heartbroken knowing that my beloved cars as a kid that I loved so much and all could die for crying out loud. It was mind-blowing and shocking, literally. And as well as that, my Jay Limo means so much to me because as a kid I always would want him so badly, but we never saw him in person. I absolutely adore the movie's intro. It's so invigorating and exciting, and I love the Motor Speedway of the South and all the flickering lights. I also slept in an old Cars bed that I had years ago. I wish I could show you pictures of it and all, but that would reveal what I look like. So, yeah. Just bear with me, okay? And we sold it to a thing going on at Franklin High School years before I ever actually went to it. How funny is that? I was also kind of terrified by the Lost short. That always freaked the heck out of me, too. I always found the backwards driving thing funny and fun. There's a shot where McQueen is leaving outside of his hauler and you can kind of see the top area like this. I always thought because of the way how the black looked on the sides, I always thought that was like a shot from the inside of him and you were seeing out for the front window in between the two seats. How funny is that? I love the fact that there's flamingos as well based on that one RV having them around him. More stuff here on my wall that just shows how much I love cars as well. And to wrap this whole video up, one funny thing, I always thought the little Torquey Pistons logo guy looked like the Iron Giant. Try not to change my mind. So yeah, 15 years guys, can you believe it? Happy birthday, Cars 1. Thank you for an entire lifetime of sweet, desirable, unforgettable memories. Just wow. Happy birthday, my favorite film of all time.